this computer. Hi guys,
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Kim and Ginger here, as usual these days. We
Curious
come as
traveler.
a team. We do. So we're just actually looking into this Cabbage Patch Kids concept, and there's been a bit around about it lately. And the basics of it is that in the 19 maybe 20s, they had the first movie that was ever made was by I'll link this below, by the way, was
It's
by,
gruesome. It's a gruesome video, I think. It made me a little uncomfortable, but I think, brace yourselves.
okay, so it's
It's
all
not,
about
it's not the
the
most comfortable
babies
thing.
being born in cabbage patches.
Mhm.
And she just sort of plonks them on the ground. They're crying. I
Like,
mean, you can see that,
tra la la, look at her, tra la la. Think
yeah.
I'll look and see if there's any more.
And she gets another one out and plonks another one on the ground.
Like,
Um,
we have to ask, is
oh,
this
she's
real?
dragged that out, actually. She sort of dragged that one out on the ground and it's just lying there. I don't know what that's about. Anyway, it's a bit weird. So we thought we'd kind of
Disturbing.
look into this whole concept. So then we were talking about the Cabbage Patch Kids in the 80s and how in the 80s it was all the rage to buy yourself a Cabbage Patch doll. And it was a doll that came in a kit, and it came with a birth certificate and also came with an adoption certificate. Um, so Ginger was saying,
There's that, the whole thought of that is a little uncomfortable to me because of our what we know now about having birth certificates and registrations and this type of thing, um, how we feel about these documents, and I would encourage research if you don't have concerns for them. Um, I personally tie it to the orphan train and the British home children, and the number of children, hundreds of thousands of children that were moved from Britain into the Canada and Australia, and somehow there's stories of incubator babies on Coney Island. It's all kind of disturbing. And then when you see that video, that's supposed to be the first video, and the woman is kind of, that's disturbing what we just saw. This is the first video that was ever made. This is what we're hearing. I have a question mark around that, but I mean, it's pretty gruesome. And kind of people would think to make a video like that? What are we looking at there? You know, I don't know, it's kind of dark. The whole subject is quite dark and not something that very many people are willing to talk about, I
okay,
feel, but it's important that we have
the,
these discussions.
the other thing that they could be setting us up for is the birth rate has really, really dropped. I don't know what
Oh,
it's
yes,
really
that's
dropped. It's
true.
really dropped. I mean, I was reading an article the other day in Australia saying, I don't know what it's dropped by, but it's Australian birth rates drop. Birth rates drop. It was quite a big percent. There you go. The Australian birth rate 2022. It's a decline from 2021. Um, so it's 1.26 decline from 2020 and a 1.25 decline. So it's declining 1% a year. So, or more than 1% a year.
I
Uh,
think that's about to change.
so there you go. Something like in Australia birth 2021, then it says an increase of 5.3 from 2020. Depends on what you read, I suppose. But
It
anyway,
does. And I think looking at the garden, I wasn't expecting a fertile year in the garden. And I think a lot of people experienced a not so great year in the garden. And uh, maybe because I expected it. I just didn't try very hard. I put a lot of effort in, but at the same time, I could have done a lot more, but I had that belief that it wasn't going to work out. And astrologically, it didn't look good. And sometimes I think it's just like that.
But
I
you
think
know,
it's a natural ebb and flow.
but
And I
you know,
don't expect it to last forever. I think it was temporary.
but you know that, I mean, what I was going to say about this decline, supposed decline in rates of births, they could be going to bring out in the future cloned babies and offer them up for adoption in the near future, in the next few years. Actually bring out babies with different genes, different
Where are these kids coming from
clone
this
them,
time? Where
grow
are
them,
they coming from this
grow
time? We
them,
have to wonder. My
grow
goodness,
grow
what is
them.
happening? Yeah,
You're not seeing those
AI.
adverts about the growth chambers for the babies, the growth capsules. I mean, it's really quite creepy, but there's these
Creepy.
things called capsules um where they grow these babies. Sorry, baby, and they're like little baby. They're really gross. They're like little baby capsule things, and they grow babies in them. I don't know.
Well, similar to the incubator,
Yeah,
it was designed after the person supposedly saw the um, the incubators used for chickens, for chicks.
yeah,
So it was that in mind, and they said the person was supposed to have said, I can't remember their name, sorry, but the person was supposed to have said, make it big enough for a human baby. And then they had this story about Jerry Seinfeld. You can find it if you Google it, if you search for it. um, Jerry Seinfeld spoke about how that's where his father came from, the Coney Island incubator babies. And you can find advertisements, babies 5 cents.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I took a screenshot of a comment that I saw recently where the person said, I was just kind of shocked because it's true. I believe it to be true that it's only been since 1902 or 1920, perhaps, that you were no longer allowed to put postage on the child. Don't stamp the postage on the child and put the child in the mail. So this is how children were delivered once upon a time. I mean, we were so kind of tra la la. Like, look at this lady in the garden, just sort of throwing them around. I mean,
Oh,
that's not cool.
this
That's creepy.
this is a 1980s Cabbage Patch Kid commercial.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna play the last 30 seconds of it, the last kind of five
Okay.
seconds of
It's
it.
been
Brace,
sold
brace
separately.
yourself.
Each
Brace
doll comes
yourself.
with a pretend birth certificate and adoption papers from Coleco.
So it comes with
Good parent.
I've got I've linked that below if you want to watch the whole thing. It's kind of again like a little bit, I don't know. It just Ginger was saying it creeped her out when she watched it.
It
But
really creeped me out. It made me a little angry too, because I thought, yeah, here, have this inanimate object and adopt it. And I'm thinking, my poor grandmother would have watched that and perhaps watched that. And having been a British home child, is the polite way of saying child slave, um, having been a child slave to this country um, from 12 years of age until she gained her freedom at, I think, 18. Imagine her watching that commercial and here, take this inanimate object, here's some adoption papers, and give it all your love. And I thought, wouldn't she have just really appreciated a hug, a bed, never mind a hug, or, some form of affection.
mhm,
Uh, she slept in a barn.
mhm,
This is a true story. She wasn't treated like the others. She was brought
mhm,
in as a slave,
mhm,
and she's one of many. She's one of hundreds of thousands. This is a well-kept secret, not something that we're taught about.
mhm. Exactly.
People need to really check their history and talk to their elders if they still have them, if they're fortunate enough to still have them.
The other thing that I was talking about yesterday was when I was a kid, I can remember on Christmas, like the day before Christmas or 2 days before Christmas, mum making us go through our wardrobe and take all of the toys out of the wardrobe that we didn't play with anymore. And then we'd
Mm.
bundle all these toys into the car and we'd take them to the orphanage and hand all these toys in boxes over to the orphanage.
I love
Um,
that. That's great. But
but
where are the orphanages now? We
well, I
don't
was
seem to have
asking
any
yesterday.
anymore.
That's what I was
We
asking
don't seem
yesterday.
to
Like,
have that.
where's it all gone? Or like, are they just aborting all the babies now?
Well, no, I would say that the fertility has been low for a very long time. And, maybe now they're just deciding to, capitalize on the numbers. Maybe there's some new great thing coming down the pipe for us. I do see it as an ebb and a flow. I see that, like nature, there are good years in the garden and not so great years. And I see it as a natural thing. Don't panic, everyone. Please just wait and let it happen. Just let it happen. And you know, don't fall for any kind of great fertility ideas. Allow nature to do what nature does.
Yeah. So this one's from Entertainment Tonight. It's a video about the Cabbage Patch dolls and the frenzy of buying them that went on in the 80s. It came out, I go back to here, actually. I'll read this bit out to you, where it says, according to Wikipedia, they were originally made in 1982 and sold as collectibles. The brand set in every toy industry sales record for it was a record high for 3 years running as the top thing sold. An additional patch products, Cabbage Patch products, were children's apparel, bedding, infants wear, and board games. But
it was a big business. It was
it was a
and it was mayhem. It was on every news channel. I feel like we were told that it was going to happen before it happened. We've seen that happen
it was
recently.
yeah. Actually,
And
it's a
so
really weird one at the moment. I was questioning that. It was in the oldies catalog last week, and I couldn't work out what it was. I'll go on to that in a minute, but I'll just show you this and I'll come back to that.
Find a decade.
It's kind of funny. Just going along with it. The appeal, I really don't think that they have an appeal.
There was such a big deal made out of them a couple of years ago, you couldn't find them anywhere.
Today, 20 million Cabbage Patch Kids have been sold. That's enough for every child from 3 to 8 in the U.S. and in Canada.
Wow. I can't play all of it because of copyright, but I'll probably play that much. But I'll link it below anyway.
that's great.
In
Yeah, to
relation,
see what kind of thing, what were we thinking at that time? Like, what were we being sold?
don't know.
And we saw a clip of, we were looking earlier, we saw a clip of Drew Barrymore. And as soon as you played that, I said, oh, start the fire.
Yeah,
She was such a cute child and she
yeah,
was very popular in the movies.
yeah.
She was like, pick a star. She was at the top at the pile at that time, and she's holding one, saying, I want one. Well,
Yeesh.
every child is going to want one now.
I'll play that. I'll play that, Drew Barrymore. And it's just about here.
You're a pal. You're the only one. I love you.
They're each one of a kind. They're Cabbage Patch Kids. You can give them all your love.
Oh, no,
Cabbage Patch.
no, it wasn't there. Must have been before that. Thought it was in that advert.
I thought so too. We did see that earlier though, and again, if you search for it, you'll find it.
Yeah. Okay.
But that was kind of, to me, it was like start the fire. That would have started at the frenzy, and how else would they even know these dolls existed? It was on the TV every 10 minutes.
I know.
And then they create this mayhem out of nothing. We've seen this happen over and over again in the last few years, especially for those of us that are really paying attention to how they're trying to script this reality.
Yeah, and how they're trying to make it seem completely normal to adopt a baby.
Correct.
And
Yeah, and
that they could possibly clone these babies or make these babies from DNA or something, and then push them out to be the next generation to come because of what they've done. I don't know. I don't know whether they've created a
and
scenario where people can't have kids anymore, but
I don't know about that. I think that nature just has a way, and this is the time of a great transition. So I feel that people are not necessarily feeling secure, and you know, when they're not feeling secure, again, I feel like nature has a way of protecting itself, and yeah, no, I think that this will all come to pass. It's temporary,
and so the birth
but I do,
certificate and the adoption certificate are relative, I think, in relation
yeah.
to it being completely acceptable. So this one's saying somebody else could buy it paying $700 for him.
$700 for a doll. They used to sell children for around $5, I think, or 5 cents. I'm not sure now.
It's probably the relative amount of money to the 80s from 2000 though. From
That's
sorry,
true.
1900. five
1900.
five
Yeah,
dollars is probably the equivalent amount. So this is
yeah.
just like the 10 rarest collection. So I don't know who Felicia Francis is.
This was big business. It
okay,
was big business, a lot of propaganda, and again, trying to normalize, the adoption, birth registration, trying to normalize that process, finding a way to teach it without teaching it. Because if you notice, they don't teach, things like taxation or any of these real world things that we think we have to worry about. They don't teach that because I feel it's illegal. I feel like that's why they don't teach it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just I'll give you a link to this, but there's just little doll people, and why
Yeah.
these well, this one's $1,544.
Oh,
Barry Fritz. It
the
should be
other
that
thing I
little dolls came before Cabbage Patch Kids, and these are super rare and super valuable, even though it's a bit dirty and has no original papers. So how can they know it's original?
how could they, even though it's a bit dirty, it's still worth $1,000. That's I don't get it. Like so
I
the
don't get it
mayhem
either.
continues,
Yeah,
it's like somehow it's like that ripple and it's the materialistic realm. It's the oh, I have to have it.
yeah,
I'll do anything to get that item, that idol. We're not supposed to hang on to stuff like that. It's not healthy.
no,
I don't think it's healthy.
no, no. I'll give you a link to that one anyway. That was just the rarest patch dolls, so I'll put that in the thing.
And
But
those dolls were pretty tame compared to what we see now. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Cabbage is the nickname that Prince Philip was said to have used for his bride, the Queen.
really,
That's what I've heard a number of times actually since she passed away. Or,
so maybe it's tying into that too.
you have to wonder. And the Paddington Bear, again, I feel like there's a story there yet to be
I know. I had a
revealed.
I had a friend of mine who because that tag on Paddington Bear in the train station. I had a friend of mine whose mother was one of five girls, and her mother was, I think, three or four during the war years, and she lived in London, and she got taken to the train station because they were evicting all of the children out of London and sending them to these
Oh,
farmsteads out in the countryside for child labor, just like you said, just send the whole lot. So her
oh
mother
dear.
ended up sitting in this room in this train station platform, and all the other kids had gone, and she was only three or four, and nobody wanted her. And
Oh,
she's left with this tag with nothing written on it. She's the only child left. And apparently, they got hold of the woman that had taken two of her sisters and bullied her into taking the youngest one too. And apparently, they took her, and she didn't speak for 3 years after that. She didn't utter a
oh,
word for 3 years. But can you imagine how absolutely devastating it would be for a 4-year-old to be taken away from her mother and dumped on some strange place out in the country.
You can be sure people were not always kind to these children. You know, there's nobody watching. Who's watching over the children? They already don't have a voice.
I know that my mother went to one, but her mother went with her. She was only 2, but her mother went with her. But yeah,
That's
apparently.
I've never heard that, Kim. I've actually I've heard from a lot of people on this subject, and because I've tried to do my genealogy, and I've had support from another family member who's curious and remembers the stories.
Well,
You
there's
know,
a
so between the two of us, we can sort of piece together some of the puzzle, and well, we just come up with more questions sometimes.
so there's a movie called Oranges and Sunshine, and it's a movie. It's done in the 1980s, and it's set in a scene where all of these people suddenly find out that their parents didn't die, that they were adopted and they were sent to Australia in ships, but
You
their
know,
parents didn't die. And the circumstances in which they were told that their parents died was just that in the 40s they'd been sent away, and then they'd been told that their parents were killed in blasts in the Blitz, and they were put
it was,
onto ships and sent out to Australia as kids, young kids.
I believe that to be true.
And this story is like it's quite long. I think it's about 4 hours long, but it's a story about how these kids, one of these kids accidentally finds out that his mother's still alive and his
Mhm.
sister's still alive, and
Well, my grandmother never saw her mother again, and her mother lived until the 1940s. Her mother was alive until the 1940s. My grandmother told a story of how she was sad that she and her travel mates were sad that they didn't get on the Titanic. And I didn't believe her. I thought she was pulling our leg. But as an adult, when I started to do a little research, I discovered that lo and behold, she was on the next ship. And she probably was disappointed to not get on the unsinkable ship. You know, they probably were hoping, because the propaganda again around that ship, supposedly, you know, who wouldn't have wanted to get on the one that's unsinkable? I'd be terrified. You know, you're leaving with everything that what little you have.
Would you
You're
like to
leaving
know
it
how just
for Lord knows what. And yeah, what a terrifying ordeal. Then she's one of, well, I think it's a conservative statement to say that there was hundreds of thousands. I think there was far more.
displaced people.
And where did they
Can't
come from? What
can't.
happened to the parents? It's trauma-based mind control.
But
because now everybody's in a state of fear, shock,
but that's the point
trauma.
In the instance of this, the parents were still alive, and they were told the
Yeah.
children had died. So
Yes.
and then the children were sent off to be sort of slave labor.
Yes. Well, and so many of them were in workhouses in Britain anyway. All
Exactly.
throughout there.
Yeah.
They came out of extreme poverty. And, you know, I'm sure many of the mothers and fathers perhaps thought that they were doing the best, you know, this was the best possible outcome. Please give them another opportunity, you know, and I don't think they ever imagined it would ever be like this if they even had the opportunity to consent. And I question that, because the church was heavily involved with confiscating children, the
Exactly.
same as they are today. You know,
Yeah.
well, perhaps not the church as much as you know, other organizations that represent, you know, the rights of children.
Right.
Oh, I
Exactly.
think you know, it's important for the child to be heard.
Yeah. I agree. So I don't know. I think that the whole subject's a bit dodgy and a bit. I mean, they were told the parents died. They were told that the parents were told the children died.
Yeah.
Like, how much of this went on? And
Oh, I think it was common. I think it was quite common. And I think that the ladies, I think, were then sent to the asylums, you know, the
oh
lunatic
yeah,
asylum,
yeah.
for following the, you know,
That's a,
the the moons.
My grandmother, is it grandma or great grandmother? No, my grandmother on my father's side, no, my great grandmother on my father's side was sent to a lunatic asylum back in 1918 because her husband died on a submarine. And both his father and his father's brother, his father was only 5 or 6 years old, and he was put onto a Royal Navy ship at the age of 5 or 6 for the rest of his life.
My
He-
grandfather also,
They just
British
spent,
Royal Navy.
yeah, British Royal Navy. He just spent his life growing up. That's my dad's dad. Spent
Now,
his life.
again, these young lads out on the ocean with who? Where's
Yeah.
who? Who's looking out for them?
Yeah, no.
You can't tell me that any of this has got anything. I'd be quite surprised to find out that nothing terrible happened out there
No. On ships.
on the ship, you know. And I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know.
I don't
But
know.
it doesn't seem very safe for a 12-year-old to be on board a ship with a bunch of drunken sailors.
No. No.
It doesn't, it's far from anything that we would rationally do today,
I know.
you know. So why made that a rational choice then? Desperation, you know, I don't understand. Or were the children just taken and the women locked up and the men where?
Mm.
I mean, what on earth happened there? You have to wonder.
So on a happier note, just to finish this
Thank you.
subject
Please,
on a
yes.
happy note. I mean, the good thing is that there are no orphanages now. So obviously,
Well,
there isn't that much adoption taking place at currently because there are no orphanages. So
that's true.
there can't be. I mean, people aren't 5-year-olds aren't getting stowed away, or 12-year-olds aren't getting stowed away on boats, you know, anymore. So it's not happening anymore, but it was in previous generations.
Well, I think we are wise to know what happened in the past, or we're doomed to repeat it. And so I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's not happening now. This is one of the reasons why I'm talking about it right now, because I think it's important for us to really investigate. You know, tell us what you think about this Cabbage Patch story, and that being the first movie that was ever made. That's a pretty big claim. But apparently, you may find that information if you search for it. You know, is it misinformation? I don't know. But I think this whole Cabbage Patch thing goes way back. There's quite a few images from. I saw one yesterday, and it distinctly shows children in a cabbage patch, and it was from I think 400 BC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'll find that, and I don't know if you can find a way to share it with everyone. I'll send it on along. I can't recall the image, but I know I have it because I took a close look at it.
I seriously look at this world as a reset world anyway. I think it's been reset over and over and over and over again. So it's more than possible that they repopulate the world with Cabbage Patch just through doing it DNA. And that's what they meant the whole time about, you know, like the flood and Noah's Ark and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't literal, it was DNA that they were storing.
That
And
makes
then
more sense. Yes.
then they grow babies and grow animals out of the DNA that's been stored. I don't know who they are. But
we are a great mystery.
There is somebody that's they. I mean, I don't know that weird picture with homunculuses. Have you seen those weird pictures with homunculuses in them? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, you'll have to help me with that one.
I don't know whether I spelled that right, but homunculus. So they're like little people in a jar.
Oh, reminds me of the
gross.
seahorses.
Look
You
at
used
that.
to be able to grow the seahorses. What are we seeing here, Kim?
I don't know.
Oh.
I've just typed in homunculus and come across this thing that's like got huge hands or something.
It's quite odd.
That's really weird. It's that kind of thing there, where you've got like a little baby in a jar.
Well, now we're
What I've
talking alchemy,
made.
the
Yeah.
alchemical creation of people with great powers.
Right.
So
So this,
I
so
don't
this
know.
type
This
of
is
thing
a very
here,
strange world, that's for sure.
see that, and these, that's like kiddies in jars or people in jars. It's like really weird.
And again,
Alchemical process. Table of homunculus. I don't even know what that is. Building a brain, building a person. That's
yeah,
just gross. Look at that. Look at the hands and the legs and no body.
that's insane.
Ew. Anyway, click off that because I didn't like it.
Well, I wonder if we'll ever see anything like that. Let's hope not. There's that hope word again.
Okay, so just ending on a high note. I'm trying to think of one.
Well, I think, if nothing else, a lot of people are talking about it right now, and I think it's important for us to get a good sense of where we've been, because someday I know we're going to question, someday soon I feel we're going to question why we ever let that cabbage have so much power.
The other thing I was thinking about it as well is the amount of famous people that have adopted like 6 or 7 different types of kids.
Yeah.
To kind of like jingle the whole thing up. So Chinese baby, a baby from Zimbabwe, a baby from Europe, a baby from, I don't know, Japan, a baby from Thailand or something. All these different babies in the one family all thrown together, to try and I always feel that these famous families are always there to kind of promote or normalize extraordinary concepts.
Oh, I agree. And
yeah.
there's some question there of their ability to how do you say it politely? Are the female female? Are they able to have a child? And so there's been a lot of question around their gender.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I can't judge, I don't know, but I think that again, but then you look at this video, back to this Alice Guy video, that's disturbing. Like, what do we put in control here?
Well,
And the queen with Paddington Bear, the little tag, off to Canada you go with your little trunk. Like, the people still have these trunks in their houses. This is still very much part of it's not our ancient history. It's very much part of our right now moment.
Like I said, it's my friend's mother that happened to. The tag on her coat, the duffel coat. The duffel coat was, when I was a kid, you all wore duffel coats. I don't know. I don't wear them here because it's Australia, but I don't know whether duffel coats are the rage anymore. But the duffel coat, the little suitcase, it was completely normal. That's only one generation above me.
Yes, that's right.
That's just my mother's generation.
Not that long ago, and that's why I say I think it's very important for us to know the truth. And I think that oftentimes these children were ashamed of their story and probably traumatized, so unable to really speak about it. So it became the perfect crime, because silence is their greatest weapon.
I reckon there'd still be a lot of people alive that happened to, because I'm only 60, so technically it's only 20 years before me. So they'd be in their 80s now, but there'd be a lot of people out there that happened to. Oh, mind you, they'd have to be in the late 80s in order to remember it.
Well, and I think that there are family members that are remembering it, and they just didn't quite realize, like me, I didn't think that I thought she was pulling our leg, when she talked about her disappointment and not getting on the Titanic, of all things. We thought that's crazy. As kids, we just thought that's crazy and went about our business.
Yeah.
And then later I said, well, gee, I wonder when she did come over. And she came over immediately after. She set sail immediately after. So I just sort of imagined her just missing. And I can appreciate now what she meant when she said she was disappointed, because she probably bought into all the propaganda.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
a lot of them did do well, and she did do well, and she's taught me well. And, the happily ever after, well, we create that. You know, you can live a life as a victim or you can live your life as a survivor.
Agree.
And that's up to us, you know, that way they have no power over us. But it is important for us to not live like spending all of our time looking at this kind of thing,
but
but at
it's
least give it a little bit of attention and wonder, well, what is it that I'm supporting with my debit card at least? You know, what is it that when I buy this toy, what is this toy actually telling us? What is the hidden meaning here? You know, because if we haven't learned anything by now, we should really start to question at least that and give kids, you know, a level playing field.
I'm actually going to look up what this current one in the oldies catalog this week was, because I never heard of it, and I'm going like, why? It says limited or something. So current, I'm saying Aldi, but it's probably the wrong pronunciation for other people. So
Can
current,
you also found another Cabbage Patch Kid? Remember the other one that you showed us? Showed me the one that was just before 1984 or 1982 when the Cabbage Patch Mayhem happened.
that was that article. That was the
There was another one, that other
really
doll.
okay.
Do you
well,
remember?
No. Oh, yeah, I thought it was the
Uh-oh.
same article. But the
Oh,
current catalog, right? It's got this
yeah,
weird thing in it. And I
yeah.
went, oh, that's a bit weird. So it's this catalog here. Gonna talking to that. Yeah, Aldi's catalog. See if I can find it. It comes under kids' toys, but oh, go away. Oh, unless I'm must be scrolling down. Oh, there you go. That's it there. That's that's not it, but that is the right catalog because I remember the pages. So I've got to scroll down with each one. But it's loads of kids' toys in it, right? And then you come to the kids' toys section and there's this word, and I go, what's that? It's going to take me the next week to find the right one. It's teeny tiny reads. It's not that.
Well, and again, the happily ever after. Again, I'm learning. So many people are creating just different toys, different opportunities for children to explore without all these logos attached to it. And
this here, licensed. So
yeah,
in everything it says licensed 3-piece slumber combo, licensed children's moon chair, licensed mini activity backpack, licensed walkie-talkie. What's licensed? What does
I guess
licensed
it's
mean?
meaning it's not a fake,
Really?
like authentic. I guess.
It's on this licensed name is on everything here. Look, licensed swim vest, licensed swimwear, licensed hooded towel, licensed sandals, licensed
That's a good
mugs.
question, Kim. That's a very good question.
What does that mean?
Licensed, licensed,
License.
lie to the senses, license.
I wondered if it was a new movie called License, like a Disney movie called License or
Well,
something.
we have driver's license also,
Well,
and
I thought
everything
about
you have to get permission, I suppose.
Disney license. No, it's not a movie. I wondered if it was some sort of brainwashing for the concept of like putting licensed on absolutely everything, so you get used to seeing the word license, because everything's going to be licensed soon. You know, you won't even be able to go out and buy a knife and fork without being licensed to do so.
That's already happening. I feel like there's people who are talking about social credit systems, and you know, just we'll see what's offered. But I think we're wise enough now to we're not gonna be as quick to follow. I feel that people are wise enough to question now where
So
they're headed.
at the bottom here, it says see or aldis.com.au for products across many of your favorite kids licenses.
I would have to say it's just because it's supposedly authentic. But yeah, why is it? I mean, you pay big money to put those words in there. Must be important.
Anybody got any ideas on that? I'd appreciate if they could enlighten me, because I must admit, I'm reading it going, that's weird. All right.
Authentic, authentic apparel, driver's license, all that. I mean, it's
That's
very
what I think.
much, you know, permission to lie to our senses.
Okay, so I'm going to cut it off there. Well, anything you'd like to say, Ginger?
No, I feel like we covered a lot there, and you know, I am kind of curious to hear what others are feeling about this. And I know it's a sensitive subject, so appreciate you letting us talk about this. But it is kind of hot right now, with so many people appearing to be investigating the Cabbage Patch Kids, and the popularity of another movie named Storks. Apparently, it's just kind of a curious time for us to be witnessing all of that again.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for
Oh,
listening. And
yeah, let's pay attention and see what happens.
yeah, see you later. Bye.
See ya. Thanks, Kim. Bye for now. Hey.